Alright fellas, it's time. We need to have the talk. People say that Aegis players are masters with peanut brains that have no idea how to actually play the game. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, a lot of players do not know how to play neutral. You'd think it's their own fault, but it's really not. At least partially. I'll try my best to explain why. First of all, mythra skips neutral for you. Completely. Especially at lower levels of competitive play, you can mindlessly hold forward as her, and it will work. Jumping in with neutral air or approaching with dash attack are both really common. Because of mythra's movement speed, your opponent won't know what hit them, and they won't have the time to process what's happening. Unfortunately, your opponents get better the higher you go, and a playstyle like this just doesn't cut it at higher levels. At this stage, you really need to consider your approach options and whether you even need to approach. Point is, mythra doesn't teach you neutral in a traditional way like other characters do. And when it's finally time to step up, Aegis players get destroyed because they don't know what to do other than hold forward, press buttons, and pray. We haven't even talked about pyra yet. At lower levels, Aegis players tend to adopt the swing and hope the opponent runs into it kind of mentality with pyra. Which is why you see blazing end everywhere, because it's thrown out with this in mind. However, with this playstyle, people are just mashing with pyra until something hits. Mashing with pyra is a sentence I thought I'd never say. I don't know how people make it work. She's supposed to be the slower, more methodical character that has to consider every move she makes, because throwing something out is laggy. Meanwhile, people be throwing out down airs like they're cloud back airs. Combine these two playstyles together and you get Aegis players that will pick bad options and do incredibly dumb things. We're talking really stupid. And it works because other players don't expect them to pick the stupid stuff. They expect people to, you know, play well. They show you respect and you repay them with playing Aegis this way. I'm sure you've been there yourself or watched a streamer get really upset when the stupid decisions actually work out. In theory, they really shouldn't, but in practice it's unfortunately a completely different story. Which makes people adopt the mindset of, I mean, if it works? I've heard this one more than I'm willing to count, and I strongly disagree with it. Because it builds bad habits. Bad habits that will get you destroyed later on. It's detrimental to your growth as a player, and that's the opposite of what I want to see. We're not talking about doing the same option over and over because the opponent isn't catching on, by the way. We're talking about doing stuff that will get you punished frame 1 by someone who actually knows what they're doing. Blazing end in neutral isn't gonna work in the real world. Random dash attacks and neutral airs with mythra will get you blown up. Listen, I just don't want people to settle for less when they could be improving so much faster. I want us, as a community, to get better so the rumors and stereotypes can finally die down. Anyway, I said it wasn't entirely the fault of the Aegis players, right? What tends to happen is that people pick up Aegis first and learn the game second. You know, kinda like the whole Shulk player thing where people learn all the fancy tech and tricks, but they have no idea how to actually play the game. Point is, I don't think Aegis teaches you the game very well. Because a neutral and advantage is so overtuned you get a skewed perspective of the game. There's simply things you won't learn because pyra and mythra just skip them entirely. Or conversely, there are things you have to learn the hard way. Like recovery, for instance. If you've never played a character with a bad recovery, oh boy, are you gonna have a good time. Ironically, Aegis is also unintuitive to play despite being easy to pick up. And that's because there's a discrepancy between mythra's movement speed and her actual frame data. She moves really fast, and that gives the impression that her moves will be just as quick, that you can play a rushdown like Roy or Fox, but that's not really the case. Mythra is no Sheik in this regard, and Moth has overall better frame data than her, just for reference. She's also surprisingly unsafe on shield with most of her attacks, even with proper spacing. And this can leave people feeling very confused when traditional rushdown isn't working. Then people will adopt a whip punish playstyle, but that only gets you so far. Which leads me to something people rarely speak of. Pyra and mythra don't have safe pokes to use in neutral. Most top and high tiers have a safe move or two to fall back on when they're back in neutral. moves that are either hard to contest or really safe on shield. Cloud has back air, Violet has forward air, Roy and Marth have down tilt, etc. Aegis doesn't have anything like this and have to throw themselves out there, or wait for their opponent to approach. The closest thing they have is max space forward tilt, but mythra is unsafe on shield and pyra is safe on shield but very slow. So as you can see, it's more complicated than it first seems. Most of the Aegises that actually make it somewhere competitively have years of experience playing multiple Smash games and a bunch of different characters along the way. They know the game very well and have a good understanding of the different game states. That being said, pick a mid tier and learn the game.